Before books filled our shelves, before stories were ever written down, they were carried by voices around fires across generations from one traveler to another. Welcome to Fireside Stories. Tonight, let's revisit one of the tales that refuse to be forgotten. There is a story told along the coasts of Scotland, Ireland, and the Northern Atlantic. It begins with a seal, but the seal is not just any seal. Beneath the skin, the sleek grey fur, the dark eyes, the flippers is something else. A person, a soul, a beautiful being caught between two worlds, unable to fully belong to either. This is the Selkie, and the story of the Selkie is not a story about a monster. It is a story about what it means to be trapped, to have a home you cannot return to love someone from a world you can never truly enter. The word Selkie comes from the Scots word selt, meaning seal. In Scottish, Irish, and Scandinavian folklore, Selkies are seal like creatures with the ability to shed their skins and transform into humans. Unlike most mythological creatures, Selkies are not inherently evil or dangerous. They're simply different. Caught between the sea and the land, the animal and the human, the wild and the civilized. The most common version of the Selkie story goes like this. A man, usually a young man, alone on the shore, sees a seal on the rocks. He watches it for hours, and then in the moonlight, something impossible happens. The seal stands up, it reaches down and pulls away its skin like a coat. Underneath is a woman, young, beautiful, fully human. She dances on the shore, sometimes alone, sometimes with other Selkies who have also shed their skins. They dance until dawn, and then, as the sun rises, they pull their skins back on and return to the sea. The man is mesmerized. He steals her skin. Without her skin, the Selkie cannot return to the ocean. She is trapped. She cannot breathe underwater. She cannot dive. She cannot go home. So she stays with him. She marries him. She has children with him. And she waits. Because unlike the man who stole from her, the Selkie knows the truth. Her skin is still out there, hidden, waiting. And one day, it might be years, it might be decades, she will find it. And she will leave. The children will wake up one morning, and their mother will be gone. The man will find her skin, hidden in a cave or a cellar, and he will understand. She was never his to keep. She belonged to the sea all along. The Selkie story has many variations, and each tells us something different about the cultures that told them. In some versions, the Selkie man falls in love with the human woman. He courts her, he wins her, and then one night he hears the call of the sea, a sound only he can hear, and he must return. He leaves behind his wife, his children, sometimes his entire human life, because the ocean's pull is stronger than any human bond. In other versions, the Selkie is not stolen but seduced. A human man charms a Selkie woman into staying with him willingly. But willingness does not erase the longing. She bears children, tends the home, lives the life of a human woman. But she is always listening for the sound of the waves, always aware of where her skin is hidden. In the darkest versions, the Selkie woman becomes genuinely trapped, not by force but by love. She loves her human family so much that she refuses to leave, even though she could. She sacrifices her nature, her freedom, her connection to the sea. And the tragedy is not that she was taken from the ocean, but that she chose to stay. In some Irish traditions, Selkies can only leave the sea once every 7 years. They have a limited window in which to return to their human form, to walk on land, to remember what it feels like to be dry. And if they miss that window, if they cannot find their skin, they are trapped as humans forever, slowly forgetting the sea, slowly forgetting who they were. What's consistent across all these variations is the same theme. The Selkie belongs to two worlds and is fully at home in neither. The Selkie legend emerges from cultures that lived on the edge of the sea. For island communities in Scotland and Ireland, the ocean was both provider and threat. It gave fish, transported goods, connected distant communities. It also took lives. It was beautiful and terrible. The seal, which these communities saw regularly, which were intelligent and graceful and utterly alien, became the symbol of this duality. The seal is not hostile, but it is not tame. It's not human, but it seems almost human. It is beautiful, but inherently wild. It belongs to the sea absolutely, yet it must come to land to breathe. The Selkie story in this context becomes a way of exploring what it means to live between two worlds. It speaks to the experience of island communities, connected to the mainland but separated by water, dependent on the sea but threatened by it, able to see and interact with continental culture but always held at a distance by geography. The stolen skin, the Selkie who cannot return home, resonates with a specific kind of tragedy, the loss of freedom, the inability to belong fully to any place. In some interpretations, the Selkie represents anyone who has been displaced, anyone who has left their home and cannot fully return to it. Immigrants, exiles, people caught between cultures. The Selkie woman who chooses to stay with her human family represents a different kind of displacement, the sacrifice of identity for love, the loss of self that comes from trying to fit into a world not meant for you. The Selkie appears regularly in contemporary Scottish and Irish culture. Novels retell the story from the Selkie's perspective, exploring her longing, her loss, her impossible choice. The story has been adapted countless times in film, television, and literature, and in coastal communities in Scotland and Ireland, the legend persists, not as folklore believed literally, but as metaphor, a way of understanding the specific melancholy of living on the edge of things, of being drawn to two different worlds and belonging fully to neither. The Selkie represents something psychologically true about human experience, the feeling of being caught between identities, between homes, between the person you were and the person you're becoming. It speaks to anyone who has felt homesick while at home, anyone who has experienced the pain of choosing one life over another, anyone who has loved someone from a world they cannot fully enter. Unlike many folkloric creatures, the Selkie does not punish humans. It does not demand sacrifice or obedience. It simply exists in a state of perpetual longing. The tragedy of the Selkie is not the theft of her skin or the loss of her freedom, though these matter. The tragedy is that she exists in a form that makes belonging impossible. She will always be too human for the sea and too seal for the land. She will always be listening for a home she cannot fully return to. The seal you see on the rocks along the Scottish coast is just a seal. It breathes, it hunts, it sleeps in the sun. It has no human consciousness, no hidden skin, no tragic love story. And yet, the Selkie story persists because it names something true about the human experience, the pain of divided loyalty, the impossibility of belonging fully to two worlds, the specific longing that comes from being caught between. Whether Selkies ever existed is almost beside the point. The story did, it still does, and it will continue to exist as long as there are people who feel the pull of two different homes, two different identities, two different versions of themselves calling from opposite shores. The Selkie belongs to the sea and the land and is at home nowhere. It's one of the folklore's most beautiful and tragic creatures because it tells us that sometimes being caught between worlds is not a curse. It is simply what some of us are. Every culture tells different stories, yet somehow they all speak to the same hopes, the same fears, and the same questions that make us human. Thank you for joining me around the fire. Until next time, keep the stories alive.